Hi, I'm Mary Kay, author of What's for Dinner, and today I'm going to demonstrate how to make apple muffins. We begin by putting dry ingredients first into our bowl. We have 1.5 cups of flour, 1/2 cup of sugar, 1/2 teaspoon each of salt and cinnamon, and 1.5 teaspoons of baking powder. Now, if you noticed, my baking powder and my salt was the same. 1.5 cups of flour, I'm sorry, not baking powder and salt. My flour and my baking powder were the same quantities. 1.5 cups of flour to 1.5 teaspoons of baking powder. That's because a teaspoon of baking powder leavens 1 cup of flour. So if you look at your recipe before you begin, you can tell if it's going to have the right amount of leavening in it when you're using baking powder. Once you have your dry ingredients in the bowl, go ahead and just give them a stir because you want them to begin to get stirred up. You don't want to stir muffins too much once the liquid's in them because it makes them be tough and they're not nearly as tender. So we'll get the dry ingredients started. All right, now we have our wet ingredients, and I begun to put them in my measuring cup here. We needed 1/2 cup of milk, 1/2 cup of oil, and I put them both in at once in the same measuring cup because then I don't have to dirty any extra utensils. And then we need 1 egg. The egg I'm going to crack right into the oil and milk. Again, I don't have an extra dish to wash afterwards. Whisk them together right in the measuring cup till the egg is incorporated, and then we're ready to add all the liquid ingredients to the dry. Add the apples at the same time because remember, we do not want to do any extra stirring, so we want to get everything stirred in at the same time. Now carefully begin to stir. Don't beat it vigorously. We just want all the flour to be wet and be blended in without beating our recipe. This is not like a cake. We do not want extra air in our muffins or else they will not have a good texture to them. You want it just a nice, wonderful texture with everything mixed up, but not too much. It's very lumpy, and muffin mix is supposed to be lumpy. So don't try to beat out these lumps. Just carefully check to make sure all of your flour and your dry ingredients are... All right, now that we're ready to put it in the muffin tin, you want to make sure your muffin tins are well greased so that the muffins will come out easily when they're finished baking. Just start to spoon your batter in. Don't play with it too much. Just spoon it in and let it go in the center of each of your muffins wells. And this should make 12 muffins. So as I spoon it in here, at the end I may have a little bit too much or not quite enough. I just kind of keep working at it till I get 12 muffin tins relatively full in the same amount. That looks pretty good to me. I think it's ready for the oven now. Pop it in the oven. Another important thing to remember about muffins, very often you'll see a recipe that says to bake your muffins at 375. If you bake a muffin at 375, it won't have a nice peak, a nice rounded top to it. So make sure that you cook a muffin at 400 degrees for about 12 to 15 minutes, and then you'll get a real nice peak on the top of your muffins, and they'll look fabulous when you present them to your guests to eat. Happy cooking!